And there's looks like the new design for the 747 airport bus. Probably just because I have an ad on there. But I wanted to do a little video here, a little bit of a, not really a rant, but I guess you could call it that. That 747 airport bus, by the way, is going to be discontinued very soon, in case you haven't heard. And that's what I wanted to kind of talk about in this video here. So I'm just going to, on this rainy day, go to drier ground. All that snow we had seems to have disappeared, so I'll get onto the street here and begin my little rant. Alright, so we're on better ground to walk on here at the Lino Gru Metro Station. So what I wanted to talk about is what I've been hearing in the news lately about our public transit system. And let me tell you, I'm a little bit concerned about what I've been hearing the last month or so. First of all, this new light rail network that they're building, this new train network, the more I think about it, let me tell you, the more I don't like it. And first of all, this train network that they're building, this light rail network, apparently part of it is privatized, if not all of it. And what they've decided to do is the developers or the designers or whoever runs this train network that's being built has put in this ridiculous non-competition or non-competitive clause. Now, what does this mean? Well, I'm going to explain. Basically, from what I understand, wherever there's train stations on this line, so, you know, all the way from the South Shore, McGill, Trudeau Airport, the West Island, St. Anne de Bellevue, wherever there's actually train stations, they're going to be cutting existing transit service so that, you know, there's no competition for this light rail network. So I'm going to give you a classic example. The 747 bus that we just saw is going to be discontinued because why? They're building a train station at Trudeau Airport. Now, from what I understand, this new train network is not going to be part of the STM network. So if you want to board the train, it's going to be like the AMT or the EXO, whatever you want to call it now, and you're going to have to pay a separate fare. So, you know, right now, if you want to go to the airport, yeah, you could take, there's not really a train that goes there, but you have a lot of different options. And the 747, I know it's $10 if you don't have a bus pass, but if you do have a monthly bus pass, well, you can use that to get there. When this train network's built, well, they're going to be getting rid of that bus, and you're only going to be forced to take the train. And it's going to be more expensive from what I've been hearing. And also, apparently in St. Anne de Bellevue, they might be getting rid of the 211 bus, which goes right here, Lino Gru, to St. Anne de Bellevue, West Island. Why? Because they're building a train station in St. Anne de Bellevue. So all these things that I've been hearing about are really making me uncomfortable. And there's this other rumor going around that, yeah, they're going to be simplifying the fare zones, but a lot of them are going to be added on to the island of Montreal, meaning right now, if you have an STM bus pass, you can go anywhere in Montreal, all the way from Anjou to St. Anne de Bellevue, Île Bizarre. But when they build this, when they start getting these new fare structures going, I've heard that if you live in the West Island, for example, and you want to take the bus to the West Island, you're going to have to pay more than if you live downtown. And it's going to be kind of like the AMT trains are right now, but for every form of transit, not just the trains. So, you know, all these things I've been hearing about in terms of this light rail network and, you know, privatization of public transit and non-competitive clauses where you can't have other forms of transit in the same areas where these train stations are going to be built. Well, let me tell you something. I think we're going to see an uprising. We saw what happened with that new super hospital, the MUHC super hospital, when they built that thing across the street here. That thing is owned by the horribly corrupt SNC Lavalin, whatever you want to call it. And if you've been following the news, you've been hearing about all these, you know, corruption scandals going on with the SNC Lavalin. All kinds of bribes going on, corruption. We had that Arthur Porter, the guy that ran that thing, was apparently committed fraud. And the way that super hospital works, in case you don't know, right now that's actually owned by a construction company. It's owned by the SNC Lavalin company, Lavalin, however you pronounce it. And I think it's going to be about 10, 20 years until the ownership gets passed to the government of Quebec. And to make matters worse, we have this new CAQ government. And the CAQ government, in case you're not familiar, they're not really pro-public transit. They're very right-wing, more conservative. And it's like a perfect storm right now for disasters within public transit in Montreal and beyond. And of course, you have these strikes going on and these buses breaking down at a tremendously high rate. So it's, I needed to make this video to kind of get this stuff off of my chest. And this light rail network, by the way, is going to be done in 2022. And they've already started their consultations for redesigning the Montreal bus network. And another thing I heard, a lot of these train stations, they're going to be forcing STM buses and all that to go to the stations, which I understand makes sense, right? You got to get people from the train stations to the rest of the area. For example, you have St. Anne de Bellevue train station. Maybe you're going to have to run some buses through there. But just this notion of, having exclusive rights for public transit is really disturbing. And, privatizing public transit is a horrible, horrible mistake. And, I really, when I found out about this, I was really, kind of really upset about this, because public transit is supposed to be public. And I know in Ottawa, the old train, I think it's called, works in conjunction with the bus network. So if you buy a bus pass in Ottawa, you can use that, a transit pass, you can use that on the buses, you can use it on the light rail train, and even have buses that go to the airport. I remember when I was there earlier this year, in May, I got a transit pass for the day or the weekend. I think it was for the weekend. And you're able to use that pass to board the old train, where I did some videos on it as well. And there's also buses as well that go to the airport. So you have the train that goes to the airport, the buses, and it's all on one transit pass. It's bad enough here that you can't even take the commuter train without, having to use a separate fare and all this. It's complete nonsense, in my opinion. It should be one transit system. And that's bad enough, but at least they're all public. The AMT, the EXO, STM, they're all public. But when you have this privatization of a train system, and as a result of this privatization, you're not allowed to have other forms of public transit wherever these train lines are, it's going to be a complete and utter disgrace, I'm going to tell you. And I invite everyone out there, if you're going to be affected by this, and obviously it hasn't happened yet, but going back to what I was saying about the 747 bus, that's the first casualty in all this. They're going to be getting rid of that bus line. Mind you, they're going to keep running it when the train's not running, so for example overnight. But why not keep both systems running? Yeah, I understand, there are too many fare zones. It's ridiculous. I think there's like 1,000 different transit fares within the area, South Shore, Montreal, North Shore. Yeah, you got to simplify it, but talking about, if you live in the West Island, having to pay more for a bus pass than compared if you live in downtown, that's not really good. Ottawa, Toronto, it's one transit pass for the whole city. Obviously if you live on the outskirts, it's a separate one, and I understand that. If you live in Laval and you come to Montreal, yeah, you're gonna have to pay a bit more if you want to have a transit pass that pays for all the different ways of getting to work, getting home, getting to school or whatnot. But at least if you live in Laval and you work in Laval and you don't have any need to come to Montreal, just pay the Laval bus pass. And it takes you all through Laval. Same with the South Shore and same for Montreal. But this notion of, if you live in Montreal, if you live in downtown and you work in the West Island, or most likely if you live in the West Island and you work downtown, and you're gonna have to pay like $120 a month to take the same STM bus system. And meanwhile, someone that lives in the downtown core only has to pay like $90 a month, whatever it will be. Let me tell you, it's not good. And for somebody like me that loves public transit, gets joy out of riding buses, let me tell you, it's not going to be good. And I hope that when this thing gets built, none of these horrible things are going to happen. And again, don't get me wrong. I mean, if you're building a new public transit system, you're going to have to rearrange everything else. I mean, certainly you don't want to have buses and trains running on the same line, conflicting with each other, but to completely have no other options but the train line is ridiculous. Like right now, you want to go to Dorval, I mean, you can get on the 191, you can get on the 211, or you can hop on the AMT train, EXO train, and go to Dorval. But I don't know what's going to happen, but if you take public transit and you live in the area, I highly suggest you keep watching the news and stay on top of this thing. Anyways, have a good day all, and hopefully everything works out. See y'all soon.